The Young and the Restless Spoilers, please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. Chelsea and Billy met under unflattering circumstances. Billy, enraged by the Newman family's actions, began to hurl insults at Chelsea. Chelsea's anger didn't erupt immediately. It built up, tightening on her face, flashing in her eyes, as she tried to comprehend how things had come to this. Chelsea had reacted strongly, hoping Billy would get angry and then they would clash. And now, standing before her, he acted as if none of it had ever happened. That was what hurt her most. Not the accusations, not even the insults, but the complete erasure of everything they had shared. She couldn't accept it. She couldn't accept it from him. Chelsea said the Abbott family was truly despicable and they had to be destroyed, otherwise the Newman family would be in danger. Billy was an important member of the Abbott family, so he would never allow anyone to insult them. Because this wasn't just about Chelsea anymore. It involved something much bigger, something darker that had consumed Billy and wouldn't let go. His hatred had grown beyond reason, beyond logic, until it became dangerous. He spoke of the Newman family not with resentment, but with a cold determination that sent shivers down the spines of everyone in the room. He didn't just want to challenge or surpass them, he wanted to destroy them completely. Billy said that Newman had never considered Chelsea a member, so stop being so foolish, just snap out of it. She retorted, her voice sharper, more certain. She told him to stop, to think about what he was saying, about what he was planning. This wasn't justice, this was cruelty. This was an obsession. And it would only lead to more destruction, more pain, not just for the Newman family, but for all those caught up in the conflict. For a brief moment, there seemed to be a glimmer of hope that he might hear her, that something in her words might touch a part of him that still remembered his former self. But then Billy said something that completely shattered that fragile hope. He swore to kill Victor. Those words hung in the air, heavy and irreversible. There was no hesitation, no doubt. He believed it. He truly believed it. And the reason behind it in his mind was justifiable. Victor had crossed the line before, kidnapping Jack, targeting the Abbott family, cornering them so that revenge seemed the only option left. Billy didn't speak instinctively. He spoke from a deep sense of betrayal and anger that had been building up for too long. Chelsea felt the weight of that moment press down on her. This was no longer just anger. This was a declaration of war. And she knew exactly where she stood. Her voice calmed, even as her emotions threatened to explode. She told him that no matter what had happened, no matter how complicated her past with the Newman family was, she was still one of them. That wasn't something Billy could mock or dismiss. It was part of who she was, and that was what she would defend no matter the cost. If he targeted Victor, if he targeted her family, then he was also targeting her. That was the tipping point. The distance between them vanished in an instant, replaced by raw, uncontrolled emotion. Words were no longer enough. The tension that had built up throughout their confrontation finally erupted, and they lunged at each other almost simultaneously. It wasn't a calculated or strategic act. It was instinct, driven by anger, hurt, and all the unresolved issues between them. Hands pushed, bodies collided. The ambient lighting of the Grand Phoenix lobby cast long, jagged shadows across the polished Italian marble floor, reflecting the neon glow of the Genoa city skyline beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows. The late-night atmosphere was usually one of subdued elegance, characterized by the soft hum of jazz from the lounge and the delicate clinking of crystal glasses. Chelsea Lawson adjusted the gold chain strap of her designer tote bag, her designer heels clicking with a rhythmic, authoritative cadence as she navigated the sprawling, opulent space. She had spent the better part of the evening entrenched in grueling strategy meetings, fortifying her newly cemented position within the Newman family's ever-expanding media conglomerate. For the first time in what felt like a lifetime, Chelsea felt completely grounded. She was no longer just surviving the turbulent currents of the city's elite. She was thriving, standing shoulder to shoulder with Adam Newman, fiercely defending his name and proving her unwavering loyalty to the Newman legacy. With Adam currently thousands of miles away in Las Vegas attempting to manage his brother Nick's escalating personal crisis, Chelsea had taken it upon herself to hold down the fort at Newman Media. She felt a surge of pride in that responsibility. She was a woman transformed, having shed the skin of her chaotic past. But the past in Genoa City rarely stayed buried for long. Billy Abbott sat at the far end of the Grand Phoenix's onyx-topped bar, a half-empty glass of amber, liquid sweating in his white-knuckled grip. The ice had long since melted, watering down the expensive bourbon, but he didn't care. His appearance was a stark contrast to his usual polished corporate playboy aesthetic. His tie was loosened and hanging askew, his collar unbuttoned, and his hair was uncharacteristically disheveled. Billy's bloodshot eyes were fixed on a middle distance that only he could see, staring into a void of his own mounting resentments. The recent weeks had been a relentless, suffocating cascade of professional humiliations and personal failures. Phyllis Summers had spectacularly outmaneuvered him, effectively backstabbing him by handing Chancellor Industries back to Victor Newman on a silver platter. Everything Billy had fought tooth and nail for the legacy he had desperately tried to secure, to prove to the world and to his own family that he was more than just the Abbott family screw-up, had been snatched away. And it had been snatched by the one man he despised above all others. Victor. It was always Victor Newman. Chelsea didn't see him until it was too late. Distracted by a late-night text message from the Newman media legal team, she rounded the sharp corner near the gilded elevator banks and collided hard with a solid, unyielding figure. Her phone nearly slipped from her grasp, her heart doing a momentary stutter step in her chest. "Excuse me," she murmured, automatically taking a quick step back and smoothing the lapels of her tailored crimson blazer. Well, if it isn't the newly minted Newman, a voice slurred the words thick with dripping sarcasm and the sharp, unmistakable bite of cheap whiskey. Chelsea froze. The air in her lungs seemed to instantly evaporate. She slowly looked up into the erratic, bloodshot eyes of Billy Abbott. The tension between them already simmering at a dangerous boiling point from their recent vicious corporate clashes between Abbott Communications and Newman Media instantly flared into a palpable, suffocating heat. "Billy," Chelsea said, her tone clipped, an icy, impenetrable shield slamming down over her features. "It's late. I'm really not in the mood for this tonight." "Oh, you're not in the mood," Billy scoffed loudly, his voice echoing slightly in the cavernous lobby. He deliberately stepped into her path as she attempted to sidestep him, blocking her route to the elevators. "That's a damn shame, Chelsea." "Because I'm in a fantastic mood. I was just sitting over there at the bar, contemplating the sheer, unadulterated absurdity of the universe. And then, like magic, here you are, the patron saint of lost causes, stolen identities, and opportunistic social climbing." Chelsea's jaw tightened so hard her teeth ached. She glanced around the lobby. A few late-night patrons were beginning to cast curious glances in their direction. "Get out of my way, Billy. You're drunk and you're making a scene? Or what? You'll have Victor send his corporate goons after me." Billy leaned in, invading her personal space. The smell of the bourbon on his breath made Chelsea want to recoil, but she stood her ground, refusing to show weakness. "Or maybe Adam will come rushing back from Vegas to your defense." "It's pathetic, Chelsea. Truly, deeply pathetic. Watching you play the dutiful, obedient corporate soldier for the very people who have treated you like absolute garbage for half your life." "I don't have to explain my life, my career, or my choices to you, Billy. Especially not when you're acting like a petulant child." Chelsea shot back, her voice dropping to a lethal, razor-sharp whisper. "A child. Let's talk about acting, Chelsea. Let's talk about honesty." Billy barked a hollow, manic laugh, escaping his lips. "Let's talk about the conniving, manipulative grifter I met all those years ago. You remember her, don't you? The girl who ran cons with her mother? The woman who lied, cheated, and manipulated her way through every penthouse in this town. You think putting on a designer suit and sitting in a glass office at Newman, media suddenly erases all of that? You think Victor respects you? You're nothing but a con artist playing dress-up, Chelsea. The minute you stop being useful to Adam, they will throw you out in the trash where you belong." The words hit her like a physical blow to the stomach, dragging up a dark, complicated past she had spent years desperately trying to bury and atone for. She had fought for redemption, for respectability, for a safe and stable life. And here was Billy, a man who had his own laundry list of spectacular public failures, a man who had gambled away fortunes and broken hearts, dragging her back through the mud just to make himself feel taller. "You're pathetic, Billy," she whispered, her eyes blazing with a fierce, unyielding fire. "You're just angry because you lost Chancellor. You lost to Victor again." And instead of looking in the mirror and taking responsibility for your own reckless, self-destructive mistakes, you're taking it out on me. I'm a Newman now. My loyalty is to Adam and to that family. Something you wouldn't understand because you burn every single bridge you've ever crossed. Billy's eyes darkened, the mocking, sarcastic glint fading into a cold, hard, terrifying fury. A Newman, he spat the word as if it were a foul-tasting poison on his tongue. "You think that name protects you. You think Victor gives a damn about you or anyone else." As Billy continued his tirade, his voice rising in volume and his gestures becoming increasingly erratic, Chelsea felt a sudden, chilling realization wash over her. Billy wasn't just drunk and bitter. He was completely unhinged. The sheer desperation radiating off him was dangerous. He was a cornered animal, stripped of his pride and his company, and cornered animals always lashed out with lethal force. Asterisk. He's crossing a line times she thought her pulse, hammering a frantic rhythm against her throat. Asterisk. He's completely losing his grip on reality. Asterisk. Slowly, seamlessly relying on the sleight of hand skills from a past life, Billy had just so cruelly mocked Chelsea, slipped her right hand into the open pocket of her leather tote bag. Her fingertips brushed the smooth, cold glass screen of her smartphone. Muscle memory took over. Without ever breaking eye contact with Billy, she pressed the side button to wake the phone, swiped down to her control center, and tapped the icon for the voice memo app. A subtle, barely perceptible vibration against her palm confirmed the app was open. She pressed her thumb against the center of the screen, hitting the red record button. Asterisk. Let him talk time, she told herself, a cold, strategic calm washing over her anger. Asterisk. Let him dig his own grave. Asterisk. I know exactly who Victor Newman is, Chelsea said aloud, her voice deliberately calm, perfectly modulated to bait him further. He's a winner, Billy. He secures his legacy. He protects his family. What do? You gamble yours away and then cry victim when the house takes your chips. That was the match dropped directly into the powder barrel. Billy's face contorted with a rage so profound it seemed to age him 10 years in a single second. He took another aggressive step forward, backing Chelsea slightly toward a massive, decorative marble pillar. Victor is a parasite. Billy hissed his hands, trembling violently as he gestured toward the ceiling. He didn't win, Chancellor. He stole it. He manipulated Phyllis. He manipulated the board. He manipulated the entire damn system because that's what he does. He sucks the life, the soul, the money out of everyone in this town just to feed his own massive, fragile ego. Chelsea stood perfectly still, ensuring the microphone in her bag caught every single venomous syllable. He beat you, Billy, fair and square in the boardroom. You just can't handle the fact that you aren't smart enough to play at his level. Fair. You want to talk about fair. Billy laughed a manic, breathless, terrifying sound that made the hairs on the back of Chelsea's neck stand up. There is nothing fair about Victor Newman, but he's gotten too comfortable, Chelsea. He thinks he's untouchable up there in his ivory tower at the ranch. He thinks he can just swat me away like a fly, take my family's legacy, humiliate me in front of my children, and there will be no consequences. Billy leaned in closer, his voice dropping to a guttural, terrifying register. The ambient jazz music and the distant chatter of the Grand Phoenix seemed to fade away entirely, leaving only the venomous, echoing intensity of his words. I am going to destroy him, Billy vowed, his eyes wide, unblinking, and entirely devoid of sanity. I'm not just going to try to take back what's mine. I am going to tear the entire Newman empire down to the studs. I will salt the earth so nothing can ever grow there again. Victor thinks he's a god in Genoa City. I'm going to crucify him. Chelsea felt a genuine shiver run down her spine. This wasn't the usual Abbott Newman corporate posturing. This wasn't a threat of a hostile takeover, a stock manipulation scheme, or a PR smear campaign. This was visceral. This was violent. You're talking crazy, Billy, she whispered, genuinely unnerved by the darkness in his eyes, but acutely aware that her phone was still recording every breath. You can't take down Victor. You'll only destroy yourself in the process. Watch me, Billy sneered, his face mere inches from hers, the smell of bourbon and pure hatred washing over her. I will end him, Chelsea. I swear to God I will wipe Victor Newman off the face of this earth. Whatever it takes. However I have to do it. I will put that old man in the ground and I will laugh while I do it. And when I'm done with him, I'll come for the rest of them. Adam, Victoria, Nick, I'll burn the whole damn family to ashes. You chose the wrong side, Chelsea. When the Newman ship finally sinks, you're going to drown right along with him. He stared at her for one long, suffocating moment, his chest heaving with the extreme physical exertion of his own hatred. Then, without another word, he turned on his heel and stormed toward the revolving glass doors of the hotel, knocking shoulders with a bewildered bellhop as he disappeared into the neon-lit Genoa City night, leaving a trail of stunned, heavy silence in his wake. Chelsea stood frozen against the cold marble pillar, her breathing shallow and rapid. She waited until Billy's figure completely vanished into the darkness before she finally exhaled a long, shaky breath. She pulled her hand out of her tote bag, bringing her phone up into the dim light of the lobby. The red timer on the screen read 0417. 4 minutes and 17 seconds. Her thumb hovered over the screen, trembling slightly with adrenaline, and she pressed the stop button. The file saved automatically to her device times. New recording 14 asterisk. Needing to be absolutely certain, she quickly plugged in her wireless earbud, tucked it beneath her hair, and pressed play. She skipped past the initial bickering and the insults about her past, dragging the digital slider to the 3-minute mark. Asterisk. I am going to destroy him. I will wipe Victor Newman off the face of this earth, whatever it takes, however I have to do it. I will put that old man in the ground. Asterisk. Billy's voice played back in pristine, terrifying clarity. The hatred was palpable, echoing in her ear with undeniable, devastating force. It wasn't hearsay. It wasn't a rumor passed around the Genoa City Athletic Club. It was hard, irrefutable digital evidence of a serious, potentially lethal threat against the patriarch of the Newman family. Chelsea slipped the earbud out her mind, racing at 1,000,000 miles an hour. She walked over to a plush velvet sofa in a secluded, shadowed corner of the lobby and sat down staring blankly at the glowing screen of her phone. She had him. She had Billy Abbott, completely and utterly at her mercy. But now came the impossible, agonizing question. What was she going to do with it? Option 1 was the most obvious and perhaps the most explosive. She could march straight out to the Newman Ranch right now, wake up the security detail, and demand an audience with Victor. She could bypass everyone and play the audio file directly for the mustache himself, or she could send it to Adam in Las Vegas. Adam would know exactly how to weaponize this against Billy and the Abbotts. Presenting this recording would instantly, permanently solidify her status within the Newman family. Victor would see that she was not just a former con artist riding his son's coattails, but a fiercely loyal, indispensable ally who had protected the family from a legitimate physical threat. It would mean the absolute end of Billy Abbott. Victor would use his immense power to have Billy arrested for making terroristic threats, institutionalized for a psychiatric breakdown, or utterly permanently ruined in the press. The Abbott family would be humiliated beyond repair, and Newman Media would reign supreme over Abbott Communications forever. But Chelsea hesitated, her thumb hovering over the forward icon. Despite the venom Billy had just spewed at her, despite the cruel insults about her mother and her past, a small, stubborn, deeply buried part of her remembered the man who had once stood by her. Billy and Chelsea shared a long, incredibly complicated history. They shared a biological son, Johnny. Even if Victoria was raising him, Billy had helped Chelsea through some of the darkest, most difficult periods of her life. When everyone else in Genoa City had turned their backs on her, Billy had offered a hand. Could she really be the one to orchestrate his total apocalyptic destruction? Sending this file to Victor wasn't just a clever corporate maneuver, it was a death sentence for Billy's life as he knew it. Victoria would keep his children from him. Jack would be devastated. Billy might never recover. Furthermore, Chelsea's shrewd, calculating mind, the very mind Billy had just insulted, recognized a strategic flaw in option 1. If she handed the recording over to Victor, immediately she surrendered her control over it. Once Victor had the file, Chelsea would be sidelined. She would be thanked, perhaps financially rewarded, but the ultimate power would no longer be hers. Victor Newman shared power with no one. Option 2 began to formulate in her mind, cold, calculated, and brilliantly dangerous. What if she kept it? What if she held on to the audio file, a hidden ace, tucked securely up her tailored sleeve? In the cutthroat, unforgiving world of Genoa City, leverage was the ultimate currency. A recorded, unhinged death threat against Victor Newman was a blank check. She could use it to keep Billy in line. She could use it to force the Abbotts into massive corporate concessions if the media war between their companies got too bloody. She could use it as an ultimate insurance policy, ensuring that no matter what happened in the constantly shifting alliances of the city, Chelsea Lawson held the trump card. She looked at the file name again, asterisk, new recording, 14 asterisk. With a few quick taps of her manicured fingers, she renamed the file Times Bachelor of Arts Insurance asterisk. She uploaded a copy to her secure encrypted cloud server, backed it up to a hidden offshore drive Adam had set up for her, and then meticulously deleted the original from her device's local storage. If anyone got their hands on her phone, they wouldn't find a trace of it. It was safely tucked away in the digital ether, a dormant volcano waiting for her singular command to erupt. Chelsea stood up from the velvet sofa, smoothing her skirt. Her posture was straighter, now her eyes harder, glinting with a new dangerous light. The fear and shock that had gripped her during Billy's violent rant were entirely gone, replaced by the intoxicating, dizzying rush of absolute power. Billy Abbott had wanted to make her feel small tonight. He had wanted to drag her down to his level of misery, despair, and powerlessness. Instead, in his blind, drunken rage, he had handed her the very weapon that could destroy him and reshape the entire hierarchy of the city. As she walked toward the elevators to head up to her suite, the silence of the Grand Phoenix felt different. It felt pregnant with impending disaster. Chelsea knew that the fundamental dynamics of Genoa City had just irrevocably shifted. The recording was a ticking time bomb, its digital countdown echoing softly in her mind. It had the power to shatter the Abbott family, provoke the legendary unholy wrath of Victor Newman, and ignite a corporate and personal war that would leave collateral damage for generations to come. The clock was ticking, and Chelsea Lawson, the former grifter turned Newman powerhouse, was the only one holding the detonator.